Chapter 1. Grasp the Gospel. Among the preludes to sharing your faith that I am commending to you, this one tops the list. Why? Because without it, there is no list. You cannot do evangelism if you do not grasp the evangel, the good news of Christianity. Let's face it, the word gospel gets thrown around somewhat loosely in Christian conversations today. So much so that its weighty meaning can get lost, or at least muffled. To grasp the good news of the gospel, then, we must internalize the significance of that word, news. After all, this is what separates Christianity from every other religion. Christianity is not fundamentally an ethical code or good advice. It is, above all, an announcement of good news. You don't need to go to seminary in order to grasp the gospel. You don't need to be in ministry to grasp the gospel. You don't even need to have been a Christian for 5 minutes in order to grasp the gospel well enough to convey it to others. All you need to understand is that 2,000 years ago, an invasion took place. Heaven came to earth in the person of Jesus, and he inaugurated a whole new kingdom. For 33 years, he lived a life of unflinching, perfect faithfulness to God the Father. In other words, he lived the life that, try as we might, we cannot live. And because he loves us, he died the death that we deserved to die. As a believer in Jesus, I can know that on the cross, he was treated as if he had lived my sinful life, so that I might be treated as if I have lived his righteous life. And then Jesus was buried, until he wasn't, because 3 days later, he got up and walked out of his tomb. Now everyone who turns from their rebellion, whether of the plainly wicked or subtly religious variety, and trusts in Jesus, is united to him in this life and the next. Believers will one day be resurrected in new bodies fit for a new, resurrected earth. We will enter into the joy of our triune Lord, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and will rule under him as kings and queens of the universe forever. In a skeptical age, this may all sound far-fetched, like a fairy tale for gullible kids, too good to be true. But this news is entirely true. It just isn't deserved. Indeed, it isn't fair. As one song phrases it, "Why should I gain from his reward? I cannot give an answer." But mercy is never fair. That's why it's called mercy. One gospel, two angles. I live in Richmond, Virginia, and there are things about my city, size, layout, population density, and so on, that I can best learn from the vantage point of an airplane. There are plenty of other things, though, that I can better learn by walking down Broad Street. Both perspectives are helpful, even necessary, for understanding Richmond. A street-level view without an aerial perspective to frame it, or an aerial view without a street-level perspective to fill it out, will inevitably yield a truncated frame of reference. Sure, we are just talking geography. Richmond's history and culture, for example, must be learned by other means. But a failure to see the city from various angles creates a one-dimensional, distorted outlook. Not to mention an impoverished appreciation for the area in all its fullness. Likewise, the gospel can be profitably observed from two biblical vantage points, in the air and on the ground. Just as there are not two capital cities in Virginia, so there are not two gospels. There is one, which we can marvel at from two angles. The gospel in the air is the sweeping story from Genesis to Revelation that can be summarized in a few plot points. For example, creation, fall, redemption, and new